Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video and welcome to the start of a brand new series. Now this series is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I finally got the time to do something. Because a project such as this one takes a long time for me to record. Now this series I'm going to be making a mega park in Jurassic World Evolution 3. This game I've bought it when it first released, and I've played it a ton since it first came out, and I've always wanted to just spend hours building one park, put everything I have into that and make the best possible park I can. And that is what this series is going to be about, starting here in episode 1 and going until I literally run out of room and cannot place anything more down in this park. So yeah, let's get into this. I started out with this little arrival point with a helipad and this arrival point building, and I sort of put this up on a hill because one thing I want to do with this park is play with elevation a lot. I think having different elevation levels just adds a lot of detail and just makes the parks more interesting. I know the guests don't care about a lot of the stuff I'll be doing probably, but I don't really care about that. I'm building it to look good from my perspective playing the game, and that is all I care about doing. So yeah, the building I unfortunately forgot to record me building, so you'll just see that popped into the background already. And then I just wanted to make this area around the building feel like somewhere people would actually be. So one thing I love in this game is the foliage and the rocks and all the natural stuff. So I started off with a nice little planter around the building and just put down some bushes, flowers around here to add in some detail. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy watching this series because it has been such a grind for me to make out these episodes. Just each one takes up so much time to record all this footage. Like, it is several hours for each episode. And if you were wondering, yes, a lot of the time isn't going to be spent building the enclosures for dinosaurs. Whilst that is my favourite thing to do in this game, I do also love building the guest areas just as much. Like putting the little details into everything, like the little benches here and the bins. Yeah, it's just I just really like having the little details like that as well as building the big things. So the first dinosaur enclosure I build is going to be in the third episode. These first two are just building the guest areas because that takes a very long time. So yeah, I won't spoil what dinosaur you're gonna see just yet. However, we do start out with a pretty big one. It is one of my favourite dinosaurs I decided to put in first. Anyway, back to what I'm doing now. I just wanted to build this little like walkway for guests. As soon as they exit the arrival point, they come out into this nice little wooden canopy area. I just thought that looked really nice. It's something I've been seeing a lot of other people do in their parks, and I wanted to do that as well. So yeah, and then I'm gonna use these yellow banners you'll see me putting up now. I continue using the same banners throughout the park. I think it's just nice to have, whilst I can have little areas which are themed differently, it's nice to just have a general overarching theme. Like you'll see that with the buildings as well, where I keep up that, you can see I used the blue brick on the bottom and then the orangey brownish wood up the top. I continue with that theme later on. There's slight variation to it, but it stays pretty consistent for the next few areas. Then next up on the agenda for this little entranceway, I wanted to have a big centerpiece or just something to draw the attention of the guests as they walk in, which is going to be a Spinosaurus statue I put up. Yeah, just having little things like that which attract attention when you first walk into a park is something really nice to have in there. Yeah, something else I wanted to say about the future of this series is I have pre-recorded quite a few episodes, just to get them out, because like, it's finding a time to build these parks. It just takes up so much time. So the first few episodes have been built already, so yeah, but anything beyond the first few episodes, I would appreciate suggestions for. Whilst I have a rough idea for what I want to do with this park, it is always nice to gain input from other people. And yeah, that's one thing I hope to do with this park, just give you guys a bit of inspiration for what you may want to do with your parks. Anyway, you'll see now what I mean when I say I put the arrival point up on a hill. And this hill does change a bit. Like, I do have to change the area to get a path down. I was originally planning on having another arrival point. I guess could come in down the bottom. But I can't unfortunately do that. I'm kind of glad I couldn't, because the path you'll see I make later on is, I think is quite nice. The foliage brushes in this game are really useful for covering large areas. Whilst I do try to use like my own custom foliage a lot of the time, the foliage brushes for things like this mountain you'll see I used there is very useful. Then the next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to have a fence or just a wall surrounding this area to make it look like guests couldn't walk off. Whilst obviously the in-game AI makes it so guests won't actually walk off, I think it's just a good thing when you're on top of a mountain to have barriers, because sure, guests will stick to the path in this game, but I do want to make it a bit more realistic. Whilst there's some things in this park I do take to the extreme, like my enclosures I put with dinosaurs in, they could probably break out of them in real life. However, so stuff like that I'll do my own stuff, it's a game. And then other things I want to put a bit of realism into it. So like with these barriers, yeah. So yeah, these sticking with the same theme as the buildings of blue brick once again. As I said, with that continuous theme, you'll see that come back later. And I do put them all the way around the starting area. I did also, you'll see I put in an amenity building up here, just so guests wouldn't instantly leave this area, and they would hang around a little bit, just so it wasn't completely empty all of the time. Because yeah, otherwise guests would just leave this area instantly, go straight down the hill by the path I put in later, and it would just get really, really annoying. Okay, and here you'll see I did then move on to decorating the amenity building. I stuck with the same theme as the entrance building I had put in. Only difference was in this one I didn't have the blue brick on the bottom, I just made it entirely wooden. Once again, similar to the arrival building, I built it in different layers. So you have one that's 1 floor high and one layer that's 2. it's nice to have a bit of elevation into it. And you'll see I don't make the buildings just straight blocks like squares or rectangles. I added multiple offshoots just to add in a bit more detail to it and make it less boring. Yeah, because if you make just one straight block of a building, it is a bit boring to look at, to be honest. I was having a bit of frustration with making this building, as you'll see here with these like corner pieces I was putting on to try add some more depth to the building, and just the piece I wanted, I just couldn't find it. Yeah, most of the pieces in this game are really good, I'll give him that. Like, most of the time, everything I need I'll be able to find. Being able to scale things is really helpful. The modular building for this game has just really improved it from Jurassic World Evolution 2. Just a massive step up. Yeah, just sometimes the pieces I want aren't there, and it can get a bit annoying. But yeah, as you'll see now, something else I like doing is adding trims around the building, like pillars in all the corners, just make it look like it's a bit more supported, and also just add some depth to the building, because otherwise buildings can look just a bit boring, like there's not much to them, and I do not like that. So I try to add in as much detail to buildings as I possibly can. Yeah. I believe once I'm done with that was this area all done, yes. Yeah, as I said before, I wanted to play with elevation a lot. I also wanted to add in this massive lake in the middle of the park, or not, it won't be the middle of the park, by the entrance area. I think just having things like this frame the park nice, and make it look like it is a bit less man-made, like playing into the natural side of things. It's really nice. So I made this lake, made some offshoots in rivers, which we will build around later on. I did add some more mountains around the lake, which, just like the arrival point where the mountain that's on, yeah, the terrain tools in this game are another really good thing. They are really good. Being able to create mountains so easily, and then using the foliage brushes to add rocks onto all the mountains is really, really nice. So after I'd done with the arrival point up there, I knew I wanted to have this other area down by the lake, which was kind of like the main hub of the park for now. I'll probably add something else in later, which is a bigger spectacle to be the center of the park. But for now, this is kind of the main area, the entrance area. Kind of like how in the Jurassic Park you have the visitor center, the innovation center in Jurassic World. Just kind of an area to be that big spectacle which the guests first walk into, and it's the first thing they see in the park. And now this part really, really annoyed me, trying to get the path down the mountain. But I obviously when you placed a path down on a hill like this, it kind of leans to one side, like you'll see there, and it was really annoying. So and I didn't want the path to be too steep either, because guests would still walk down it, but it wasn't entirely realistic and just didn't look nice. Also, having the gradual, like, zigzag path down the mountain is just really cool, I think. It just looks really nice. So yeah, I was playing around with this thing for quite a while, trying to get the path down perfect. However, I'm really happy with the end result and happy with how it ended off. So yeah, I can't complain too much about how it ended. Yeah, this path ended up being quite a bit longer than I originally intended it to be, getting down there. But I'd rather that than have a path that just didn't look nice, so at least it still looks good. Which is all I care about when making this park, to be honest. That everything looks good. And then it was on to making so to make this I used an attraction, one of the in-game attractions, and an amenity on either side of it, because I wanted to have guests come down here, and if I just built a building they wouldn't, so I knew I needed to have something in there which would bring guests down to this area and be something they would go in. I skipped out most of it building this building. I went through several designs to get to this one, but I'm quite happy with it. Once again, as I said, it has multiple layers to it. Has like isn't just a massive block, which would not have looked very nice. Yeah, I'm happy with how it ended up looking. I used the same design as the arrival point, the blue brick, and the wood. I used different supporting pillars on this one. I didn't want to have all my buildings just be copy and paste over, so I used some variation in the design of these ones. But yeah, building this thing took a long time. There was a lot of deleting things, going back, replacing them in, and what's that mean? Maybe disheartening when you first start going through and doing stuff just over and over and over and over. It is part of a design process at the end of the day, and you're like always learning to build new stuff, which is still quite fun. One thing I was worried about while building this was that it wasn't big enough to be that spectacle that like people would be drawn into. However, I think I got there in the end of it, and I think it is pretty big. It doesn't quite have the same effect as the visitor center or the innovation center do in the films, but that wasn't entirely what I was going for with the design. I just wanted to have a main hub area out of this, which I got, I think, hopefully. Let me know what you think of this building in the comments below. It's something which I don't really know what to think of. I did put these roofs on it. I still wanted to have some blank areas which I would put benches on for guests to sit on, which is something I think is really cool about this game, how when you place down the kind of tables, not the park benches, but you know the round tables with the chairs around them and the umbrellas on, you'll actually get guests sit there, which is something cool they ain't done in any of the other games Frontier do, like the Planet games, which I absolutely love playing, and it's how I got into this kind of building thing. But yeah, something those games don't do, and is really cool in my opinion. It just adds another it just adds life into your builds. Like, 'cause even when guests aren't walking around, they'll be sat there, and yeah, it's just really cool in my opinion. You'll also see in the background just a little way away from these buildings. I did put in staff areas, like the staff buildings. Obviously the hatchery I need to make dinosaurs. However, I did also put in a ranger team over there and a control center. And whilst I won't need them because I've put on sandbox settings so I have unlimited cash, dinosaurs can't escape. I don't need to research anything, so these buildings are absolutely useless and will never be used apart from the hatchery. But I just wanted to have them in because I feel like it adds a layer of realism and also just adds in more buildings, which is something I wanted to do. Don't just have the areas dinosaurs, just have some buildings in there, which just adds another layer of detail into a park. And yeah, I did just go with sandbox settings for this part because, as I said, I just wanted to build and build and build as much as I possibly could. And whilst like, it is cool playing the game with the cash money on and having to research, I do enjoy that. I just enjoy just building stuff more. I think it's more fun, for me at least. But yeah, if you want to see me attempt to park in challenge mode, I would be down for that. And now, as you'll see, I am just going around this building, adding in trims. I use these wooden panels, wooden beams around the edges of the building in a slightly different colour to the wood of the building. It just adds another colour into it, another layer of depth into the building, and it just looks really cool. Okay, and at this point I have finished the outer shell of this building. However, as I said before, the foliage is one of my favourite things in this game. So I added in some little planters around the building, which I would later fill in. And now it's time for me to put in the little details that bring builds like this to life. Because the shell is so big that I kind of got the general eye-catching thing done. But you need the little details still to kind of just pull it all together. And one thing I love is lighting. You need to have lighting in builds that are this big. Especially because nighttime, you need it to look good at nighttime, in my opinion. All my builds, I will put lights in so that they look good at nighttime. Big lights, small lights everywhere. Yeah. Lights on the building, lights on the floor, just lighting everywhere. Just make the builds pop at night, which is really important in my builds. You'll see I placed those two big statues down in front of a building. You'll see those statues and the other statues in the game be used a lot for this area. Yeah, I've already used the Spinosaurus one up the top at the arrival point, but you will see even more statues be used later on. And I did also want to use those yellow banners I was talking about earlier throughout this area of the build. I put them on the lamppost. I believe I hang up some more of them on the actual building itself. Yes, here we go. That is what I'm doing now. Just once again to have that continuation of the theme throughout all of these buildings. And to add in the finer details, because at the moment these are big empty walls. I wanted stuff on there to add in some more detail. I believe I add in some windows around the back, but on this front area there wasn't much space by this point, so I just kind of had to go without them. And yeah, here we go, adding in these windows. Another good thing about this game is the windows, you can have stuff appear in them. For these ones I just use the blinds on them because, well, you don't really see them that well. But other windows throughout the park, well, I do use that. Those, like, 3D views. But for this one, I just didn't think it made much sense. Yeah. These windows played a big part in making this building and other buildings come to life, because I just kind of have these big empty walls, and these windows were one of the best ways I found to kind of fill them in. Yeah, I think they look pretty nice. I don't think this building is one of my favourites if you look at it from the back. However, I did go on to put foliage and some trees and bushes around the back of this building. I don't think I do that today, I think I do that next time. But there we go, that is the finished building for today. So that is the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one, where I continue building this arrival area. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.